Welcome to the Business Transition and Succession Planning Webinar Summit. I'm so glad you joined us, and I'm really excited to talk about a neat option to consider when planning your company's transition. So since our last webinar summit in January, a couple of things have changed due to COVID and the continuous regulation and program changes that it has brought. So I'll be sure to point out those changes as we go along. When beginning the process of selling your business, it's really hard to know where to start and even harder to understand what all your options actually are. And as a business owner, trying to find the time to figure all of that out can be really daunting. That results in most people not even knowing that selling to an international buyer is an option for them. And a lot of people may or may not know that Canada actually has really high hopes of welcoming many new people from all over the world in the next 3 years and beyond. So now that you're watching this presentation and you do know that this is an avenue that you could explore, I'm going to talk about why and how in this presentation. But first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Lauren Shepard, and I've got a really big passion for helping small businesses. After over 10 years in oil and gas working for much larger corporations, I left to apply my knowledge in operations and project management and client management to small businesses that I truly cared for. I began working with startups in early 2018, and after facilitating an acquisition back in early 2020, I decided to join SuccessionMatching to continue doing that for companies across Canada and for people around the world. Since joining, I've had the pleasure of landing one of our clients in Ontario just this past May, and I'm continuing to bring on new clients to begin their immigration and business ownership journey. I've also recently taken over our partnerships division, and I work really closely with community organizations all over Canada to educate and assist business owners through the process of transitioning their companies. So let's talk a little bit about why you should consider selling to an international buyer. You might be thinking, and a lot of people do, that it's more difficult or even more costly, but that isn't always the case. So the first reason I want to talk about is the fact that your business is your legacy. And I know through working with small business owners that you have put your heart and soul and time and sacrifice into this business. And I imagine, and I have been told, that it's really important for business owners transitioning out, that they really want to see that business continue in the community, not only for the staff, but also for the customers that you've brought over the last however many years. And under the provincial nominee programs, international buyers are required to commit to keeping the business running in the community. And this is something that our immigration officers do not take lightly. The second thing to consider, especially if you've had big visions for your business, but you never quite got there, is expansion. So under a number of the programs, an international buyer can purchase 33% of the business, and you can work alongside the buyer as a new partner to expand. You have more resources, you have more mind space to consider what that expansion might look like, and you'll have help. So many of the international buyers also have networks, skills, and experience to help you grow your business internationally. And in those 100% buyout situations, programs require that new owners invest 10% of the purchase price to grow the business as well. And last but maybe most attractive for sellers, especially when you're absolutely ready to pull the trigger, is that international buyers are required to invest their own cash for the purchase of the business, which means you don't have to wait on or worry about your buyer accessing financing. The financial landscape of Canada is also changing quite a bit due to COVID, and it has become increasingly more difficult for domestic buyers to access capital. So having that cash buyer will be a huge advantage in the coming years. Canada is maintaining high levels of immigration to offset some of the negative economic and fiscal impact of Canada actually having one of the world's oldest populations and lowest birth rates. And as such, Canada is going to face some challenges growing its economy and supporting government spending in the future. These challenges can be alleviated by welcoming more immigrants to support labor force and help with economic growth. So every year, the government of Canada announces the immigration goals. And in 2020, they announced this really large goal of immigrating 1 million permanent residents to the country by 2022. Unfortunately, COVID hit only days after that announcement, resulting in a major fall in Canada's immigration levels. That was due to travel restrictions and all kinds of things. But recently, Canada has opened its borders once again to fully inoculated international travelers, making this process move a lot faster than it has in the last 18 to 20 months. And it has also been reported that Canada is on track to meet that 2021 immigration goal of welcoming over 400,000 newcomers. In July, their total immigration numbers were 184,000. So we're doing pretty great on that front. Canada remains committed, as I've said, and is targeting some of the highest level of immigration in its history. After that early 2020 announcement of 1 million immigrants by 2022, they actually upped that ante and is reaching toward 1.2 million new people by the end of 2023. And the neat thing about that is there's all kinds of streams for immigrants to come in and work in Canada, but 60% of that 1.2 million is going to be immigrants under the economic class programs, including that express entry program and the provincial nominee program. All that to say, for you, selling to an international buyer means that you have access to a much larger pool of buyers. So we're also working on a new partnership that will help us assist businesses looking for skilled talent. COVID has really changed the employment landscape and the labor force all over North America. So we're helping business owners find new employees by pre-qualifying aspiring immigrants and matching them to potential opportunities. Navigating the paperwork to hire an international skilled worker can be a little bit intimidating. And as business owners, and we work with them all the time, we're super acquainted with the resources that it requires to hire new staff members and the risk that business owners take in doing so. So our goal is to assist hiring managers by providing an easy process to hire and onboard these newcomers. And as this program develops, we'll be announcing regional pilots, so just make sure that you're in touch with us to receive those updates. Another key sign of Canada's commitment to immigration is the ongoing express entry and PNP draws that have been happening throughout the pandemic and continue to happen today. In fact, biweekly express entry draws just issued a record-breaking total of PR invitations to skilled worker candidates in the latter part of 2020. And the PNP is also very active. SuccessionMatching works primarily with Ontario, British Columbia, Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, each of which continued to host PNP draws during the pandemic. Excuse me. A few things have changed since January, so I want to update you on those. The BC PNP Entrepreneur Stream is currently on pause and likely won't reopen until sometime in 2022. So unfortunately, if you're in BC, international buying might have to be pushed. But that would give you a great opportunity to go through the formal succession plan and make sure that you're ready by the time that stream is opened again. The Alberta PNP Entrepreneur Stream has yet to announce their new program. However, they do have a skilled worker stream for immigrants, as well as an entrepreneur stream for international graduates currently in Alberta looking to start or buy an existing business. So that's a really exciting opportunity. And lastly, SuccessionMatching is very excited about our new formal succession plan program for businesses in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. If you're in that area and looking to sell, please reach out to me to learn more. It's super exciting and it would be a really amazing way to ensure that your business is set up to sell to an international buyer in the future. So to understand if your business qualifies, you can start by asking some basic questions. Have you been in operation for 5 or more years? Is your business 100% owned? And are you operating in an eligible industry? So each province has their own specific requirements, but these are some of the things that you should start thinking about if you're wanting to sell to an international buyer, you can either reach out to me for assistance with that, or you can also probably do a quick Google to figure out what your eligibility requirements are. Some examples of industries that are not eligible would include bed and breakfasts, car washes, and laundromats, things like that. So what's really important is actually making sure that your business is ready to sell to an international buyer. And going through that process doesn't look that much different than selling to a domestic one. So first and foremost, and probably the most important thing, is that you must have your financials in order. In my experience, a lot of business owners are wanting to sell. They're thinking about that next step. And they're a little bit reluctant, or it feels very, very vulnerable to share those financials. But it is super important, and you will be asked for the last 3 years' financials prior to matching with a buyer and even going through due diligence. If you are concerned about that, please reach out to me and we can talk about it. This is so that succession matching internally can make sure that your business is viable and ready for sale. And once we do find an interested party, it's very typical that a serious buyer won't even consider looking at a business without these initial numbers in front of them. So having that ready, being ready to share them, can really shorten the process and make it a lot easier to match. Like I said, a lot of business owners can feel vulnerable in this position, and I just want to rest assure anyone watching who might be thinking that very same thing, that privacy to our business owners is one of our utmost important values. The second thing that you need to think about is the timeline. So this process can take anywhere from 18 to 24 months, which is typically longer than a domestic sale. But if you have that time, which sometimes can be in your benefit, this process can be really perfect for you. And this ties into making sure your business is ready. Like if you're ready to sell and you start the process with us and we realize like, oh, you're not quite there yet, that 18 to 24 months will give you the buffer zone that you might need to get everything in order. Make sure that you know the value of your business. And this all kind of ties together. But it's important to know that most provinces require a $200,000 minimum investment from a buyer. So understanding your price before creating that listing will be hugely beneficial. In addition, understanding the value of your business and understanding your financials and going through that whole succession planning process is really going to help you understand what kind of sale you want and why. So on the value of your business, when you're going through those numbers and questions, if you're going for an asset sale, make sure you know how much inventory that you have and how much it's worth and how you got to that number, because that's one of the things you'll definitely be asking for. One of the other things is discussing the transition with your employees. So a lot of international buyers will really want to keep existing employees on staff, as they already have the knowledge of the processes and the knowledge of the business in the area. So that's really a huge asset for them. And the timing on announcing a company sale can be a little bit tricky. So get some advice on when and how to go about this. We have some HR consultants that we might be able to connect you with, and there's some resources on our website. This goes hand in hand with the last thing I want to talk about, is being prepared to mentor. So I would highly encourage this for any business transition, but definitely for international buyers coming overseas, restarting their life, bringing their families, starting owning a new business. It's all a little bit overwhelming. And so they're going to rely pretty heavily on the previous business owner, which would be you, to kind of help them through that process, introduce them to key clients and your circles of influence to make that transition a lot smoother. And mentorship really, in my opinion, can be of the best advantage to the seller, because just after building your business to profitability over so many years, you'll have a lot of peace of mind knowing that you're not just like handing over the keys and walking out the door. You'll be able to transition out over a period of time. And mentorship can look a lot of different ways and can be worked out in the contract process. So now that you know that selling to an international buyer is an option, I know that I have said a lot in these last several minutes. it's an option, and that you can expand your reach to a variety of buyers, not only domestically, but overseas. And I really would like you to think about whether or not this is a good fit for you. And if so, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at Lauren@SuccessionMatching.com, and we can go ahead and start that process. Thank you.